Most people think Boat Trader is just another place to post listings and get leads. They look at lead volume numbers, see 100 leads in a week, and say, "This is working." That's how they lose money. The real problem is nobody tracks what happens after the lead hits their system. Lead volume and conversion rate are not the same thing. You can have 500 leads a month that never close for all the value you're getting from them. If you're not tracing each one from platform to CRM to sale, then your numbers are garbage and you're spending money on noise. This is a system failure, not a performance problem. This is Marine Dealership Marketing, the show about systematic marketing that actually works. I'm Mikey, and today we're doing the single highest leverage 30 minutes in this entire business, reading Boat Trader and marketplace performance correctly. Here's what you're missing. You're measuring lead volume like it's revenue. That's wrong. That's not how any of this works. Marketplaces don't just give you leads. They give you data points that you have to connect to real outcomes, or they're just noise. What happens in the gap between when a lead shows up and when it becomes a sale? That's where performance lives. This is the core insight. Cost per lead isn't what you should be looking at. Cost per sale is. You don't want to know how cheap it is to get a lead. You want to know how much money each dollar you spend actually brings in. Most dealerships measure everything through their platform's dashboard, and that's where they lose money. They're chasing volume instead of value. That's the difference between a mistake and a failure. You pull all your marketplace leads into your CRM, and then you track each one from when it hits your system until it becomes a sale. You build out a unified reporting pipeline that can measure revenue per dollar spent across all channels. Then you compare actual cost per sale between Boat Trader, Meta, Google, everything else. The data will tell you what's really working, not just what looks good in the platform. You have to pull marketplace lead data into your same reporting system as your owned ads. That means integrating your Boat Trader leads with the CRM, not leaving them floating on their own dashboard. You measure true cost per sale instead of just cost per lead. Then you do a real revenue per dollar analysis, which shows you what each channel is actually bringing in per dollar spent. The platform's numbers are just the tip of an iceberg that you never see. I've seen dealerships throw money at platforms that produce 500 leads a week because they think they're getting a good deal, when the actual cost per sale on those leads is higher than their meta campaigns. They don't realize it until they actually connect the dots and measure everything through the same funnel. That's the moment where you start making the right moves. If you're doing this right, you'll see something that contradicts your assumptions. A channel that looks strong based on lead volume might actually underperform once you trace it to sales. Another that seems weak in raw numbers might be delivering more revenue per dollar than your paid social channels. That's how you find the real winners. You can do this in 3 steps. First, integrate your marketplace data with your CRM so every lead gets tracked end to end. Second, switch from cost per lead to cost per sale as your primary KPI. Third, run a revenue per dollar calculation that shows how much money each channel actually brings in. You don't need fancy dashboards or automation tools. You need a unified approach where every lead goes through the same pipeline. This is the one rule that matters. Cost per sale, not cost per lead, drives budget decisions. The lead that costs you $50 but never closes? That's costing you more than the one that costs $200 and actually sells. If you're not measuring that difference, you're making bad money decisions. You're treating volume like value. Here are the mistakes people make all the time. First, they don't trace leads to sales. That's the biggest blind spot. You're using Boat Trader's dashboard as if it's a full system. It isn't. It's just a starting point. The moment the lead leaves the platform and enters your process, it disappears from view. Second, they measure volume instead of value. I've watched dealerships spend $30,000 on a marketplace campaign that only delivered 3 sales. Their dashboard says they got 1,200 leads. They think they're making money. They're just paying for noise. Third, they compare platforms with different systems. Meta shows cost per lead. Google shows cost per click. Boat Trader shows raw lead count. These are apples and oranges. You have to measure them all the same way to know what's really working. Fourth, they don't check their own CRM. It's easy to say, I don't see anything in my system, but that's because they're not connecting the data properly. The leads aren't disappearing. They're just not showing up where they should be. That's a setup problem, not an outcome problem. And then there's the worst mistake of all, assuming everything works the same way. People think if they did well on one platform, they'll do well on another. They don't realize marketplace performance is totally different. You get leads from one place and convert them in another. The two parts are separate and need to be measured separately. Here's how you stop doing this wrong. Pull your marketplace data into the same unified system as your other platforms. Use a CRM that can track each lead all the way through to sale, or at least integrate with one that can. That means you're not just looking at the first click, you're watching what happens next. Then calculate true cost per sale across all channels. This is how you know which one brings in the most money per dollar spent. If you're comparing lead volume between channels, then you're fooling yourself. The real test is to run a revenue per dollar analysis on each one. That shows you which channel is bringing in the most profit for your marketing spend. It's not about how many leads you get, it's about how much money those leads bring in. Once you start doing that, you'll see where your real budget should go. Don't just look at BoatTrader. Look at all the platforms through one lens. The same way you measure Meta and Google, measure everything else. Don't let any platform have its own dashboard without connecting it to the bigger picture. And here's what happens when you do this right. You find that your marketplace leads are actually better than you thought they were, or worse than you thought they were. Either way, you know the truth now instead of just the numbers on a screen. This isn't a one-time fix. This is a process you have to keep running. Check your data every week. Update your analysis. Don't let your system get stale and your decisions get wrong. The whole point of this is that you need to measure what actually matters, not what looks good in the reporting tool. If you're not tracking leads through to sale, then you're measuring noise. You're chasing ghosts with real money. The data you see from BoatTrader's dashboard is just a starting point. What makes this work is getting everything into one place so you can do the comparison you need to make. The platforms don't tell you what you want to know. You have to connect the dots yourself, and when you do, the results will surprise you. That's Marine Dealership Marketing. If this one earned its 30 minutes, the full system is inside the course at learn.mikey.ai. I'm Mikey. Go measure what actually matters.